Hey, everybody, welcome to the Ordinary Joe Show. I'm your host, Little Joe, Jody, whatever you want to call me, and I'm super happy to have you tuning into today's episode. And today I thought I'd tell you a little bit of a story, the backstory to one of the tattoos that I got just recently. So in November, I hit up the tattoo parlor and I got a few tattoos on my arms, one of them being the text, "You are my Clive Lloyd." And I can't really show it to you on here. Even if you're watching the video, the camera doesn't really pick up the tattoo. It looks kind of weird. But I'll post a picture on my social media so you can have a look at it. I'm pretty happy with it. And I know it's not your typical tattoo. It's not a skull or a rose or anything like that. And it's probably original. I don't think anybody would normally get "You Are My Clive Lloyd" tattooed on their arm. So I thought it would be a good idea to share you the backstory behind that because it is a pretty cool story. And I think some of my friends and family who are tuning in might have heard this story before or know kind of the basics behind it. But if you're just tuning in and you don't know much about me or my journey or all that kind of stuff, then you might be completely confused. So I'll give you a little bit of a backstory. So for those of you who are just tuning in, either now and you haven't met me or months, years down the road, and you're wondering what this is all about, a couple of years ago, I had the pleasure of meeting a very cool gentleman. His name was Leroy Adams. Leroy lived on the streets of Winnipeg. He was chronically homeless for about 15 years and completely homeless for about 7 years, the last 7 years of his time on the streets. He would spend his days in a mall downtown in Winnipeg or in the library or at a city park. And then at night he would go to a bus shack in downtown Winnipeg. And he didn't stay at the homeless shelters because he was always afraid of being assaulted there. He had been assaulted at homeless shelters at least 25 times, and so he refused to go to homeless shelters. So Leroy and I met in the fall of 2019, and we became fast friends. We became buddies, and it's kind of a long story, which I don't have time to tell you now, but in the course of the next 2 years, we were able to form a really good relationship. I was able to connect him with some people from his past, and we were able to secure some independent long-term living arrangements for him. We were able to get him off the streets, which was super cool. So in the summer of, I guess it would be 2021. I get my years mixed up. With the pandemic, I screwed up all my years. I don't know about you guys, but after the pandemic, I never know what year it is. But I think it was in the summertime. Leroy had been experiencing some health issues, and sadly, we found out that he had an aortic aneurysm and didn't have long to live. Leroy made the decision not to have treatment for this aneurysm, and as a result, the doctors in June told us that they felt that he only had maybe a week to live. And so it was really important for my friends and I who were on this journey with Leroy. I had some friends who helped me support Leroy. It was important for us to be able to connect him with the people in his life, the people in his past, so that they could connect with him in the event that he did pass away fairly soon. So if you knew anything about Leroy, he really was adamant that nobody be in touch with the people from his past. He didn't want me to be in contact with them, and he didn't want me to be in contact with anybody from social services. And I respect that mentality. I respect the reason and the backstory why he felt that way, because he didn't want anybody interfering with the people in his life in his past, and he wanted to be the captain of his own ship, and he didn't want people meddling in his life. So I totally understood where he came from. The problem was is that the people in his life, I was in contact with them. He didn't know that. But in order for me to offer the kind of support that he needed, I needed to be in contact with the people from his life, and I needed to work with social services to make sure that he had someone to advocate for him, and that his needs were met on a level that we felt was acceptable. And so he didn't know that I communicated with social services, and he didn't know that I communicated with the people in his past. because if he did know, he would have cut me out of his life. He was just that adamant, and he was very mistrustful of people trying to interfere with his life. So I kind of worked in the background behind the scenes, to make sure that he had the things that he needed to have a good life and to be taken care of. Um, but when we found out that he was very, very ill, I needed to have a way to connect him with the people in his life in a way that made sense. And so we decided that we wanted to set up a Zoom call with the people in his life. We wanted to set up this Zoom call so that he could talk to the people from his past. We didn't know if it would be one last time. We didn't know how long he had to live, but we knew it was important that we did it quickly. But uh, from his vantage point, I never communicated with them. So what we did was I called Leroy one afternoon and I said, Leroy, uh, your social worker has reached out to me and the people in the office, and they know that we're friends, and they said that the people in your life want to have a Zoom call with you, and they know that we're friends, so they asked me if I would set it up. Would I set up a Zoom call with so that you could talk to the people in your life? And he never wanted me to talk to his social workers or anybody in the social services, and he really didn't want me to have any contact with the people in his life. So the fact that they had reached out to me in his mind, made him, it just put him into a rage. He was just mad. He was just so mad because he was a really, I don't want to say stubborn person, but and I kind of respect that because, from his vantage point, he felt that he had been bulldozed by the system and bulldozed by people and not treated well. And so I can understand why he felt that way. But it was also important for me to take that risk because I wanted him to have maybe one last chance to talk to the people in his life if he did happen to pass away. And so he just became extremely worried about me having contact with people that he didn't want me talking to, and he became very mad and defensive, thinking that everybody was going to start meddling and interfering with not only his life but the lives of the people in his past. And he was just wild. He was just wild. And I thought, oh God, like, here we go. He's going to shut down on me. Maybe he won't have anything to do with me. He won't let me help him. He won't, like, he was just in a rage. And I could empathize with that because, if you've been bulldozed by a group of people over the years, or you feel like you have been, it's understandable that you get mad, right? So I didn't try and argue with him. I just thought, so finally, I knew I wasn't going to get anywhere. So finally in the phone call, I said, okay. I said, well, to tell you the truth, I don't really care if you talk to your people or not. Like, I could care less. I'm just the messenger. I'm just passing along the message. So if you want to talk to these people on a Zoom call, you can. But if you don't want to, fine and dandy. I don't really care. I'm just passing on the message. And that just stopped him in his track because he was used to people trying to push him into doing things that he didn't want to do. He was used to feeling like he was being pushed around and made to do things that he really wasn't comfortable with. And that's why he was so pissed off. And so the fact that I told him, I said, well, I don't actually give a shit what you do. Like, do it, don't do it. I don't care. It just stopped him in his tracks, and he was like dead silence. He was like, oh, well, okay. And he said, okay, well, I'll talk to you tomorrow. And I said, okay. Because at that point in time, we had a plan that we would talk every day at about 5:30. So I got off the phone. I thought, oh, this is not going to go well. He's not going to do this call. And I wanted him to do the call. I wanted him to have a chance to talk to the people in his past and the people in his world, because the doctors had made it very clear that he maybe had days to a week to live, and time was of the essence. And it was hard to put this call together. It was not an easy thing. And so I called him the next day, and he got on the phone, and the first thing he said was, I'm sorry. He said, I was really mad last night, and I owe you an apology. I'm really sorry that I was rude to you, and I'm really sorry. And that's the first time that he really, really gave me that kind of a heartfelt apology. And it surprised me. It really did. And I'm like, well, I get it. I understand where you're coming from. I understand. And he said, I'll do the call. He said, I got thinking about it last night, and I realized that sometimes if you want to have good things happen in your life, if you want to have positive things happen in your life, you have to do hard things. You have to go to your comfort zone, and you have to do things that scare you. And he said, Jody, you are my Clive Lloyd. You are my Clive Lloyd. And he'd said that a couple times before, but I didn't really get it. And I said, okay. And he said, do you understand what I'm saying here? And I said, well, no. And he said, do you know who Clive Lloyd is? And I said, not really. So he went on to explain this. I'm just going to take a little drink here because I got a lot of talking to do here yet. But he went on to explain that Clive Lloyd was a world-class cricket champion. And Leroy grew up in the jungle of Guyana, and then as a boy he moved to Barbados, and he grew up in Barbados. And to my understanding, and I might get the facts wrong here, so forgive me if I do, from what I understand, I think Clive Lloyd grew up in Guyana too, and grew up in Barbados, and then he went on to be a world-class cricket champ. And Leroy told me that he said that when Clive Lloyd was, getting really going in the field of cricket, it was really hard, and he had to work really hard. And he said finally in this big tournament or something, the England team noticed him and they gave him a chance. And did he play with England? I don't know. I'm probably have my facts wrong here. But England factored into it, and they gave him a chance, and they helped him become one of the best cricket players and captains in all time. And because somebody believed in him, they were able to help him do the hard stuff so that he could have this amazing cricket career. And I think he's one of the best players to ever live. And Leroy has always really admired and respected Clive Lloyd his whole life. And so he said to me, he said, you are my Clive Lloyd. He said, because you help me do hard things that I never would ever be able to do. And because you help me do the hard things that I am afraid to do, I am reaping these benefits. I'm getting all these great things. And so he said, I'll do the call. It scares me, but I'll do the call. And so I went down there, and my friends who were helping me support Leroy went down to his place. We set it up, and we brought all the good stuff. We brought pizza and cheesecake, and anybody who knows Leroy knows he loves his shrimp pizza. Shout out to Boston Pizza. And we set it up, and we did this Zoom call and connected him with the people from his world, the people from his past. And it was one of the most amazing, it was one of the most remarkable things that I've ever seen in my entire life, because he hadn't connected with these people for many, 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 many years. And they got to say the things that they needed to say. And, he often talked about that after, like, because you helped me do the hard things, look at all this positivity that has come after that. Because after that, what I noticed was that he was more willing to really go that extra mile, take that extra step to trust me, and do things that he never would have done otherwise, if he hadn't taken that first little leap of faith, and I was there kind of to hold his hand as he took that leap of faith, which was huge. It was just huge. And if you know the Leroy story, I don't know if lucky is the right word, but the doctors, they were adamant that he had days. And they told us that again in July. They thought he only had days. And Leroy lived 5 months after that diagnosis in June. And I think on some level, God gave him that extra 5 months to give him that opportunity to connect with the people that he needed to connect with and do the things that he needed to do. And I could do 10 more podcasts to talk to you about all those things that we were able to help him do before he finally did pass away. But that was one of them, and that's probably the biggest one. And so after that, he always said, "You're my Clive Lloyd." And I when he explained that to me, I was speechless, because I thought, man, that is one of the biggest compliments that a person could pay to a friend, was, "You are my Clive Lloyd." And I told him that day, I said, "I'm getting that tattooed on my arm. Like, that means the world to me, that you would trust me that much to help you do the hard stuff that he hadn't been able to do for years and years and years." That's massive. But here's the thing. I think that we all have a Clive Lloyd in our lives. If we open ourselves up to trying those things and going out of our comfort zone and facing our fears or doing the hard stuff, we all have a Clive Lloyd in our life who will help us do those hard things. And not only that, I think that we all are someone else's Clive Lloyd, whether we know it or not. And we could be a variety of people's Clive Lloyd. It might be a family member, but it might not be. It might be somebody that you just kind of know, but maybe you just help them, give them words of encouragement, or help them believe in themselves, help them see their own value, or take that chance that they never would have otherwise taken. You are their Clive Lloyd in helping them do those hard things. And by doing those hard things, you are helping them experience this world of positivity and greatness and all the good things that they never would have been able to experience if you hadn't have been there, standing by their side, giving them the stuff they needed to do the hard stuff. You are my Clive Lloyd, and you are the world's Clive Lloyd, and we all need a Clive Lloyd. So that will stay with me for the rest of my life. We have we have we have photos from that night when we did that call with his people. We snuck in a friend of mine is a photographer, a professional photographer, and she was able to capture some images from that night. And I'll tell you, that night was life-changing for all of us. I know it was life-changing for all of us to see him be able to take that step and do the scary stuff, do the stuff that he was afraid to do, but then reap the benefits and connect with his people on that level, to hear the voices and say the things that they needed to say. Damn, that was magic. That was magic. So you are my Clive Lloyd. That will stay with me for the rest of my life. So my friends, go have a good day knowing that you are somebody's Clive Lloyd. Even if you don't even know it, you are somebody's Clive Lloyd, and somebody out there is going to be your Clive Lloyd when you need it too. Life is very good. We have lots to be grateful. So that's my story for today. Send me a note if that resonated with you. Send me a note. And as always, pay somebody a compliment, buy somebody a coffee. Have a great day. I think you are all I think you're all magic. You're all gold, and I love you all. Have a good one. Bye.